So David Schwartz, thank you so much for being here. David, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work with PepsiCo?
Hi, Yonit. So David Schwartz, I've been leading tech innovation for PepsiCo, where we do three things. We try to understand what are the business needs for PepsiCo. Second, really scout the market. What are the best startup solutions out there that really solve those specific problems? And then third is partner with the business in PepsiCo to help run quick pilots and scale them up when there's a success. So it's really holding hands from beginning to end, not so much with the startups, but with our own PepsiCo people to make it a seamless experience.
That's great. Now, I happen to know you, so I know that you're usually on your way to or from the airport. I can only imagine how this COVID crisis has really changed your life. How are you experiencing these last several months of the COVID-19 crisis? How's it changing your life, your day-to-day?
It's changing for the better. It's really, I think I'm healthier than I've been in years. So there are a few things that's really changed. The first is family, just having more time with family and getting to spend that quality time being home at the right time with the kids. Second is just exercise, being able to, all those times on a flight, being able to stay physically active. But then third is it's really putting a change on the personal life where it's more focused work, and more focused work means more focused balance as well. So now I'm spending time with meetings. Meetings either have a purpose or you don't need to have them because we're all living the Zoom life. And we're therefore that much more intentional, both in the office and out of the virtual office.
That's great. And in your work where you have a perspective on so much that's going on around the world, is this changing the way you or PepsiCo are engaging with startups or with either, you talked about the life cycle of sort of guidance with the business units around what their needs are. Have those changed given COVID-19? Are there new opportunities? Are there things that are happening differently than had been before?
Yeah, there are a lot of new opportunities here. So fortunately, PepsiCo, the business in general, is food and beverage, and that's still an area that people are quite interested in during this crisis. So we're just trying to actually work faster and stronger. It's almost the theme of the company, faster, stronger, better. That's what we're trying to do. And now with our pilots, we're that much more focused and working that much quicker with each of these experiences or pilots, which is a great thing, actually. In terms of focus areas, there are a couple of pivots that I'd say what we're doing today, we're continuing to scout for and look to innovate because this is a time to get even stronger as a company. But two areas that are of particular interest. First is areas that are just continue to be around safety. So fortunately, we've had a lot of safety. We already have had measures in place, but areas that could strengthen us. So machine learning as it relates to hygiene, hand washing, or computer vision to see how clean people are. As people go out to the stores, anything that can help protect them from the environment. So it's mass, it's the classic areas, so less surface interaction, or when they do touch a surface, that's just safe. That's one pivot. The second is some areas and industries have had are facing a crisis almost. So away from home, food service, and that's a big clientele area for us. So how can we help strengthen that market on the rebound so they can hit the ground as there will be so many reopenings?
That's great.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, no, so I was just going to summarize. So it's really taking the business, continue to make it stronger, but also expanding to a couple of areas so we could be as responsive as the market to help it rebound.
Now, you work closely with founders through this process. What are you hearing from them as their concerns? Are they concerned about getting that pilot out the door or fundraising, or is that less part of the day-to-day that you're hearing from them?
So it's an interesting point right now where I find the startups that have a strong business model that's relevant to what the business needs are today, they're actually fine financially. If anything, the funds that I'm hearing, they're doubling down on the successful ones, and they're using this as an opportunity to filter out the ones that weren't as strong. So the ones that were wavering and not reading between the lines, now the message is clear. If you're not getting funding, you might have to pivot and change your model. So most of the startups we're working with are coming out of this stronger. The part that they're asking for, though, is you don't get that personal interaction. So they're not flying out. They're not shaking someone's hand, going out for that dinner and having that dinner conversation where you expand the use cases. And therefore, they're really asking, can you help facilitate those semi-formal conversations where we talk about what is the use case? Or even more, what's working and not working? And I find that's become more of our team's priorities, is help continue to make the process smooth, not by just getting people out and managing the logistics, but now really supporting the relationships.
So how do you recommend that founders build those relationships? This is so much of a personal business, right? Going out to coffee, getting to know one another, seeing the whites of one another's eyes. How should people even approach building relationships with a corporate like PepsiCo, which is so large and vast? How should people approach building those relationships now at a time when the entire world is in transition and we're also sort of set apart physically from one another?
Oh, that's a great question. If anyone solves it, please let me know. That would be great. But there are a couple of things I think have worked well. And these sound like silly things, and some of them are obvious, but they actually go quite far. The first is, a Zoom call doesn't have to start with business. Just have the conversation like we had before we even started this conversation. How are you doing? How's your family? We're all going through this crisis together. Share a story about your children. I've had 2 times in important calls where one of my 4-year-old came in and asked to wipe her. So it's almost bring out the personal side for yourself.
Right.
It's not so bad, and people can relate. Maybe that wasn't the best example, but came top of mind.
I had 2 calls like this where I had children of mine, sans clothing, running in. So we've been
Great.
there. We've all been there.
So almost be real and ask those questions, because the people you're working with have that. Second is, when there is someone that you do connect with at PepsiCo, let them, or in any corporate, help them facilitate some of those more personal parts of the conversation. We've done we've done drinks, have virtual drinks for 15 minutes where no one's allowed to talk about work, just anything but work. And I know it sounds artificial, but it actually starts to be pretty natural, and it helps the conversation because we're all thirsting for that relationship still. So first is just be normal and spend a few minutes actually speaking. Second is have some of those informal as well as it can be done. And the third is get things done. Right now, people are under the same pressure, all of us in corporate and in the startups, to get things done. If you start to prove results, people will have that much more confidence, both in the work you'll do and on the personal relationship.
David, thank you so much. Great advice. Be real, connect with people because we're all going through this together, and get things done because we all are still being held accountable. Thank you so much for sharing your advice, and great luck with everything that PepsiCo is taking on. It sounds like there are not only great challenges ahead, but also really great opportunities for those startups that are able and can think creatively about getting involved. So thanks so much, David.
Thank you, Yonit. Bye.
Bye.